high tide or dialect, also known as the Ocracoke Brogue, is a dialect that can be found in North Carolina's Outer Banks. North Carolina's Outer Banks consist of three main regions: the Northern Beaches, Roanoke Island, and Hatteras Island. Going further south from Hatteras Island lies Ocracoke Island, located roughly 18 miles off the coast of mainland North Carolina. The island has been isolated for hundreds of years as it is only accessible by ferry due to the absence of bridges and commercial flights. Electricity didn't come to the island until 1938, the first paved road, 1951. The first ferry connecting Ocracoke to the rest of the country came in 1956. From then on, tourism has become a major part of the island and its revenue. The speakers of this dialect have a notable pronunciation of the local rhyme, high tide on the sound side.
High tide on the sound side, high tide on the sound side.
Hence the name high tiders. While the high tider dialect can be found on other islands near the Pamlico Sound, for the sake of this video, we will be focusing on the dialect as it affects Ocracoke Island. There are several different stories of how Ocracoke Island came to be. Due to its location and isolation, it is said to have been a haven for pirates during the 16 and 1700s. Some say that Ocracoke got its name from Blackbeard the pirate, who on the day that he was captured and killed on the island, prayed Ocro cock, Ocro cock. Another popular tale includes William Howard, a quartermaster on Blackbeard's ship Queen Anne's Revenge. It is said that he bought the island in 1759 and with other ex-pirates settled down to create a stable life after pillaging the seas. It was then that they began interacting with the nearby Native American tribe, the Walken tribe, that had been coming to the island to enjoy the plentiful fish for years. The first recorded name for the island on a map occurred in 1585, where it was labeled Wakaken. At this time, the island was uninhabited and only saw the Walken tribe during the seasons they would journey to fish. Over time, due to misspellings and mispronunciations, the name finally morphed into the current version of Ocracoke that is known today. Records place this change in 1852. The island has rich history due to its many influences, such as the Walken tribe, pirates, and English sailors that arrived in the mid-18th century. Most claim it is a dialect that draws from Elizabethan English, Scottish, Irish, and pirate speak. The islands of the Outer Banks were isolated for nearly 240 years. It was in this period of isolation that most natives spoke and developed the dialect. Before the arrival of the ferry boats that connect Ocracoke to the mainland of North Carolina, the island's economy was based entirely around the fishing industry. The majority of the residents were fishermen, boats craftsmen, whalers, shrimpers, etc. As you will notice when we discuss the unique vocabulary of the Ocracoke Borough, most of the terms revolve around fishing, the weather, or beaches. For example, the term "monnicht" means the worst possible conditions and often refers to when the weather is absolutely terrible for fishing. Now, with the economy being shifted from fishing to tourism, the dialect is facing extinction. With the development of national reserves, especially Cape Hatteras National Seashore in 1937, tourism boomed. With tourism taking off, more and more people moved to the Outer Banks and brought with them their own dialects. This in turn has caused the Ocracoke Borough dialect to become less popular. As mentioned before, Ocracoke and the Outer Bank Islands' main food source was seafood. An important part of their culture includes community gatherings in which oyster stews, clam chowders, and steamed shrimp dishes are shared. If you were to stroll through Ocracoke, you would notice that there are lots of fig trees. Ocracoke has a long history with figs since they were first introduced to the island 200 years ago. Fig Festival is island tradition and celebrates the local fig creations. It includes fig cake bake-offs, fig-flavored barbecue, fig preserves, local music, and much more. Another festival important to the culture and community of Ocracoke is the annual Ocrafolk Festival. This festival celebrates the long traditions of Ocracoke and is a huge community gathering. Storytellers, musicians, dancers, and crafters all come together at this festival and with the help of island volunteers spread the island tradition. Some stereotypes about Ocracoke Borough is that it can sound extremely foreign to those who've never heard it before. People often assume the dialect speakers must be from another country, such as Australia or another English-speaking country. Tourists visiting the islands are sometimes guilty of finding the accent funny and almost take it as more of a joke. When to the people of Ocracoke and the other Outer Banks islands, the dialect is a part of their heritage and definitely not a joke to them. For these reasons, it's important to remember that the dialect is not a substandard form of English. In the following clip, you will hear 3 people with this dialect retelling a story.
This was only 3 years ago. The oysters was all, was all over that belt doing around. When I seen them, I got the hell out of it. I got up, walked right next to him like I didn't know. Right the belt, and I was trying to get them like that. When I did, everybody that was with me, they scampered. And so Rex, you can't embarrass him anywhere. He's never met a stranger. Rex. And the Rex, he gets there and he starts picking them up. So where goes the oysters? They go down there like this. They soon coming back around. I'm looking one door I put them in. So some lady comes up and hand me this box, so they come by and I grab about 2 hands full of them. Away they go again. I said, well, there they go again. Well, next time he come by, this lady, she jumps in there and starts helping me. Everybody else is done left in the meantime. But she jumped in there and helped me. She said, what are they, clams? I said, no, they're oysters. And then somebody in the airport goes get one of these here, those sweet things like a clothes basket or something. To put them in. And within 5 minutes, as they would go around like this, he had all them tourists, going out and helping him grab them. I still stood in the back there. I didn't even want to know. Oh, we'll have to. And they kept going by about 7 or 8 times until finally I got them all. And I waited for that next man. Don't mix right in there, everybody's luggage and everything, all funny oysters.
In the next video, you will see a man with a thicker dialect accent.
I said, I lost my cat in Barney's cat. Where do you think I find it? He said, Teach's hole, God bless me soul, but the rim was torn from riding.
Oberkirk has a very unique vocabulary. Some terms include dingbatter, meaning someone not from the area, monikt, as bad as it can get or the worst possible conditions, meehonky, a game of hide and seek, taking a little scud, referring to taking a ride around the island, whopperjawed, misshapen, unlevel, or messed up, pizer, or a porch, slickcam, still or calm water with no movement, drime, meaning liar or reused when calling someone's bluff, buck, a very good friend used between males, and the female version would be puck. For high-tiders, the use of weren't is a part of island identity, distinctly used to set an islander apart from someone from the mainland. This feature is still used by some young speakers. An example of this would be, he weren't ready to go, instead of he wasn't ready to go. Where other dialects use at or on, high-tiders would say to. An example of this is, he is to the library now, instead of he is at the library now. The use of the a prefixing is usually limited to emphasis when telling an animated story. An example of this would be, she was a-callin' for the cat, instead of she was calling for the cat. Some phonological characteristics of this dialect include the diphthong I being replaced with the diphthong oi. An example of this would be time as toim, side as soid. The small capital I is replaced with the lowercase I. For example, fish as fish and kitchen as kitchen. Another characteristic is the elision of some medial or final stops. For example, cape as K. Okrokok dialect also has a raising of the epsilon. An example would be mesh as mesh. The final O is also replaced with the right hook schwa, so yellow as yeller. There's also a fronting of the ow diphthong as A. An example would be brown as brain. There are estimated to be about only 150 speakers with a high-tider dialect left. With limited options to stay on the island, most citizens choose to leave. As a result, they lose their native dialect or heavily code switch. Furthermore, due to the rampant exposure of non-natives to the island, the dialect is dying out, as the non-speakers outweigh the speakers. However, there is a rejuvenated pride for the high-tiders. Most are trying their hardest to keep their culture alive and pass it on to their future generations.
The way we sang. I don't care about changing. I don't think they can teach me over again.